Our following speaker is one of those people that you will brag to your grandchildren that you first saw when he was about to make it really big, much like the Bruce Springsteen concert in Ullevi 1985. He has been named sort of next in line to become one of the top speakers 50 or thinkers 50 by the thinkers 50. He's a professor. He's recently come out with a book that I named called Dangerous Ideas, about kind of different view of creativity. I'm talking, of course, of Professor Alf Rehm. A warm welcome to Good Morning 2020.
Thank you. Yes, this is what diversity looks like. Two middle-aged, sexually frustrated men.
It's great, isn't it?
Who somehow try to remain hip, even when the new generation is radically trying to reshape not only the way we talk about things, but the way we build them. It's lovely being here. And I want to start by criticizing stuff, because frankly, that's all I know. I was never very good at anything. Even in school, I realized quickly that the only talent I really had was to pick stuff apart. So I realized I had to become either an academic or an international jewel thief. I was not smart enough to become an international jewel thief, and the rest is, as they say, history. But I wanted to criticize something we already looked at, namely this. I want to criticize this because I think this is messed up. This is just sick. This is insane. This has nothing to do with how the world looks. Because when I started looking at this, I got the same questions everyone else got. Finland? Really? Sweden? Germany? Switzerland? Are you shitting me? And I started looking at how this was made. I started actually doing that kind of stuff we so rarely do, actually criticizing the assumptions something is built on. And the fact is, this has a very, very important little secret ingredient, how we measure these things, that we rarely talk about and which keeps a lot of countries completely in the dark. One of the key elements in establishing these kinds of lists is, hold on for it, patent law. Yes, the way patents are registered are a key element of how this is measured, which means that since China and India doesn't have the kind of patent law we have, we who know better, they can never become innovative. Welcome to the new century. This is why these countries, which all have very, very similar patent law systems, who very much depend on patent law, who assume that patents are what defines innovation, will always be at the top of the list. You get what you pay for with the lists like these. And why do I say this kind of thing? Now, people will assume that I'm just saying this to rat on our beloved conferencier, which is not true. I'm saying this in a sense to be difficult, because I want to talk to you today about being difficult. And I want to talk to you about how we can be better at working with difficult people. And just as Magnus said, yes, I am a professor and I'm a writer. So I wrote a book recently called Dangerous Ideas, where I kind of wanted to push the argument that if we really want creativity, we shouldn't look at stuff that makes us happy. We shouldn't look at stuff where we go, oh, that's nice. We should look at stuff where we go, what the fuck? I think you call it in your latest book, the oh shit. The oh shit moment. We should look for the oh shit moments, the I don't feel comfortable with this moment. So I wrote a book about that, about how real creativity might turn up more in disgust and the unpleasant and those things that make us go, ooh. And while doing that book, because I won't plug that book more here, I started thinking a lot about fans. I started thinking a lot about tricky people in other areas. I started realizing that while writing that book, I was only focusing on what happened inside organizations, and that pissed me off. Because clearly, I am a professor of organization theory, so organizations are kind of mammas gata, where I kind of hang around. And I realized that I was doing the same mistake so many people were doing, namely that I assumed that it was the organization that was supposed to define these things. So I decided that my goal for the next year or so would be to look at difficult people outside organizations and how we can try to comprehend them. Difficult people such as those who will not abide by the rules of an architecture school. How dare you, sir? As a professor, I, of course, completely liaise with the people who deny people their rights. We are, of course, always protecting each own. But I got interested in how these difficult people, the people who we don't really want to include in our talks, that we don't really want to include in the way we look at things, how we could start to comprehend them better. And it came to the fact that I started looking at market research. I don't know why, I kind of stumbled in on it. The way all innovation basically works, you stumble in randomly somewhere. And I started wondering, how come we have so many stories about market research projects gone horribly wrong? I mean, for almost every single flop you've seen out there, the Edsel, New Coke, you can count them in even the N-Gage, Nokia's fabulous, fabulous little machine. You've actually done really, really good market research, and a lot of people have said, that's exactly the kind of stuff I want. So I was really intrigued by this. How come we have so much bad market research, and why do people say these things? So I started looking into these and realized in each and every one of those market research groups, there had been a minority voice, a chafing, annoying, irritating minority voice. New Coke, which might be one of the most written about absolute flops and failures of marketing ever, when Coca-Cola basically takes their entire consumer group and decides to slap them about a bit and say, I know you love this, I'll take it away. A little like a psychotic father. They actually had tons of people in their market research group saying, no, we don't like this. We hate this new stuff. Boo to you. They had fans. They had people who really were passionate, animated, and because when we get passionate and animated and in the grips of passion, we become quite annoying. We become irritating. We shake people and shout at them. And of course, when people shout at us and do these kinds of annoying, irritating things, we push them away. Oh, that guy's a lunatic. That cannot be how most people think. And I started realizing that one of the key problems is we have a lot of our ideas about markets and segmentations and consumers all wrong. We look at segments, but the segments we're comfortable with. We look at segmentation in ways that we can handle. Men, women, age groups, races. Stuff, simple, binary, structural stuff. We don't segment for passion. We don't segment for emphatic reaction. We don't segment for the freaks. And I like freaks. Freaks are what I get off on. And this is turning really dirty really quick. Because I believe that one of the key issues we have in the world today is that corporations have become too bad at handling the standouts, those different kinds of consumers who are prepared to do something more than just buy, like the cash cows of yore. So instead, if we really want to talk today about developing future business, I think we need to talk about freaks, and we need to talk about fans, and we need to talk about those who want to do something more with us than just buy more stuff. And, of course, now, most people will go, oh my God, Professor Grandad, can't you really think of anything more original? Because we know all this, because we've got fucking Facebook. And Facebook, of course, is all about the fans. No, it is not. Facebook is the worst goddamn fucking thing that's ever happened to fans, ever! Thank you. 90% of those claps were for profanity, not for insight. Why? Because Facebook made us think that you can become a fan by clicking a button. It made us think that fandom is as easy as collecting tons of people into groups. That fandom was somehow just a choice. Okay, I'll decide I'll be a fan. If you look at the structuration of Facebook, you'll of course realize that there is a design element to this. We've talked about design earlier today. Namely, that little fan button or like button just is the simplest way to make things go away. You really don't want to engage with this? Like. You really don't want to answer this? Fan. It is the delete button of our era, the fan button on Facebook. And this is more complicated because a lot of CEOs, yes, I know you're out there, we love ya, but sometimes you get things really badly. a lot of CEOs got it in their minds that, okay, this is the way we'll gather these new consumers. This is the way we'll get these passionate people, these delightful people. And they forgot something about this whole social media thing, the social bit. Because is this person behaving socially? Fan me. I implore you, fan me. Press my buttons. Press my button. Won't you be my fan? This person is not behaving socially. This person is being a sociopath. There's a difference. So Facebook tricked us into one kind of mindset about fans and about fandom, and got a lot of us talking about fans as if they were just any old group out there collectible by like buttons. But I'm here today to talk a little bit about how I think fans might actually be something more interesting, much more deep, much, much more difficult. For what are fans really? Fans are not just people who like your stuff. Those are called consumers. If they buy it, they like it, more or less. Fans are something else. Fans are not always nice, because fans are the first ones to criticize your stuff. Fans are not always pleasant, because they will bring up a shitstorm of critique if you do one thing that displeases them. Fans are actually a group we know quite a lot about, because there's been something called fan studies for a very long time. And brilliant, brilliant people like Henry Jenkins and my colleague Sara Talas has done tons on how these fan groups work. And the fun thing is, if we look at the history of fans and the history of fandom, we can learn a lot about what it is this group wants, what it desires. Here is a photo from the Nikon, the first World Scientific Convention, science fiction convention. Here, looking every bit a douchebag with his, I don't think they had spray tans now, so I don't know how he managed to look like a New Jersey Shore reject, but Mr. Orange here is actually none other than Ray Bradbury, one of the great science fiction authors of all time. This group was instrumental in creating a huge movement in which fanzines, what we today would call crowdsourced materials, co-created materials, were seen as completely natural in the 30s. And I've spent now quite a lot of time trying to get a grip about how we got from this gang to our current gang and what we somehow lost along the way. And since I don't have much time, I just want you to kind of think about a few things that really set these people apart, and also sets all those fantastic, active, creative people apart who could be your strongest asset, but which you can also lose if you don't understand how they work. Because fandom is not about clicking buttons. Fandom is not about having a specific set group created by you. My God, if you have to create a fan site for yourself, that tells me one thing: you ain't got no fans. So community is the key element. Community that's not created around your product or your corporation, but around something bigger, something that is no longer in your control. That was the great thing about science fiction fandom. They were unruly. They criticized stuff just as much as they created it and celebrated it. They were very, very good at pointing out when somebody did something badly, and they told it with a very loud voice. When Star Trek was supposed to be discontinued, it was a fan who wrote an by then unheard of 40,000 letters. Yes, actual letters, not tweets. Actual letters. You remember the ones? Dead tree, pen, writing, longhand. 40,000 of those things to the studio to stop them. Because they said, this is no longer your thing. This is no longer your property. It's ours. We, the community. They identified with something. But they didn't just identify with something because that was what you were supposed to do. They identified with something that contained the idea that they could be special, that they could be exclusive, that they could be different. This is what's so wrong with most of our fan conversations today, because we somehow imagine that everyone could become our fan. We create segment maps, life cycle segments, in which kind of assume if I make something great enough, everyone will want it. But no, the point with fandom was always it's about a separate group, an exclusive group, about feeling that you are part of something where you take a stand and saying, no, this is our thing, cosa nostra. And people who have this, yes, it's a mafia reference, get over it. And why is this important? Because the three first ones are classics of anthropology. Classics in how anthropologists have tried to understand the formations of groups, have tried to establish how a group that can actually generate something emerges. And why did they do that? Because, and I am actually an economic anthropologist by training, they wanted to understand how communities become productive, how they start actually creating something. And this is what the fans can do for us. Fans are not just people who press like buttons, but are productive members of our networks. The best corporations tend to be those who actually let people in, let people share, let people be fans along a notion that control, that classic idea we've often had about how corporations are supposed to be run, is a relic of the past. That control is no longer what we even should try to achieve, try to go for. So when I work with fans and I work with corporations who want fans, I tell them the same thing I will now end my talk with. That is, that there are 4 things we need to keep in mind when truly trying to capture this kind of energetic, productive, intelligent community. These people, these different, difficult, frictional people. And that we've forgotten a lot of them. First step here behind me is that we need, all our corporations need, to engage people. This is old news, old hat. This is what we've been doing in marketing since time immemorial. Trying to create that engaging product, the engaging service, and somehow getting people to feel that there is a point in caring about us. But the second point is where I believe that startups and new entrepreneurial ventures have a much greater possibility than the corporations we operate with now. And that is the notion of empathy. I started by saying that I think most segmentation sucks. It sucks because it lacks care. It lacks care. It doesn't care about people. It just cares about its segments, about creating these splitting slices. It doesn't try to understand the care that people can show our products, that people can show the things that we try to create with them. And big corporations are not empathetic. Big corporations, as many of the financial crises have shown today, are not geared towards showing empathy towards consumers. They are geared towards efficiency, towards structural solutions, towards the easy stuff, where the difficult client, the difficult problem becomes excluded. So little corporations, the startups of our world, has a great potential here in actually bringing a little bit of care into our business world. And if you do this, you can also start to think that maybe our role in the world is not just to produce, not just to create one more line of washing powder, one more kind of building, one more kind of tricycle, but actually enable other people to work with us, to do things together, to actually create a caring organization that can go beyond the simplistic model that the modern corporation has created, the machine model, the factory model. And the most difficult point of all, my interest in fans did not rise just out of my hatred for Facebook. It did not arise just because I'm a fan myself and wanted to indulge in a little ego massage. But it turned up from the fact that I realized that there is one skill set that the modern corporation has huge difficulties handling. And that is the ancient art of butting the heck out. of not trying to control everything, of not trying constantly to remind consumers of themselves, of actually being able to exit the community, of being able to exit the field, of letting things be. There's a great story. A ad agency created a project called Snickers.com, in which basically anyone could log on to their site and create a Snickers logo, but with the text of whatever you desired. Your girlfriend, your boss, or just "I hate Snickers" with the Snickers logo. This generated, in a very short time, 80,000 people who actively wanted to share this, show this, communicate both their love and their ironic play with Snickers. And what does real Snickers do? Bring out the lawyers. We started with the law so we can end with the law. Brought in the lawyers because we know we have to control. We have to be in control of the brand, the corporation, our communication. They were unable to see that sometimes letting go might be a strategy. Sometimes we don't control the fan groups control us. Sometimes exiting is the only strategy. But we live in a world where corporations are driven by logics of control. So our job here is to think, can there be another way? Can there be a way to try to let go of this control, try to let go of this overarching desire to always be present, and maybe think of the business of the exit? Thank you very much.
Well, come, sit down.
You see, I'm trying to disrupt, so I took your chair.
I am your fan.
Do you want to press my buttons? Okay.
We'll do it sexually frustrated that we are. We'll do it later.
No.
Good question came in via SMS. Do we still have time to be fans? So much information. We read shorter stuff. Who the hell sits down and listens to a full record, whatever, these days? Do we still have time?
I think we do. I think we do. It's just that we have been programmed by, for instance, the arguments about social media, that we should be fans of everything. That if you buy a product and kind of like it, you have to be a fan.
So the word has been devalued.
A lot has been devalued, yes.
Can we come up with a new name?
I'm not a big fan of coming up with new names. It's fun games to come up with a new term, a new slogan, and it's a really good way to sell books.
Right.
Such as the brilliant The Attack of the Unexpected, Bible here.
Oh, no. It's enough.
Notice how long it took him to stop me.
But I'm thinking, if we don't come up with a new name, many people today will see a fan as somebody who's pressed a button and kind of enjoys something, not the rampant letter writing that you're talking about.
We have to remember that it's our role, when working with corporations or when running corporations, of deciding what the term means for us. The fact that the term might be devalued in popular discourse doesn't have to matter at all. My God, strategy is devalued as a word in popular discourse. You have strategies for who you vote in America's Next Top Model. And that hasn't made strategy impossible in corporations.
Right.
But what it means is that we have to look at these words, such as fan, fandom, care, and think about, do I want this to mean something in my corporations, in my context? Do I want this to actually mean something for me?
Alf, wonderful. You've had gained many new fans, at least over Twitter today, who've pressed buttons. So thank you for coming here. Let's have a look at your artwork, shall we? We were asked to bring... All the artworks, by the way, will be displayed online. So if you can't see them here, here's Alf talking about fans, extreme consumers, fanatic fans, market research fails, and
I love the fact that she's actually given me a chin.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I'm not nearly as pretty, but thank you.
Thanks,
very kind.
So thank you, Alf.
Thank you
Many
again.
new fans. Thanks so much.